Thank you for staying with us. You are still watching E Central. Before the break, we brought you the biggest stories, and now we're about to get into our hot topic conversation. Now, some say the acting profession is one of the most versatile. The ability to be anyone, fictional or not, and do it so effortlessly. But then there's also typecasting, the tendency of assigning actors to the same or similar roles repeatedly based on either their previous performances or physical appearance. Something we've seen time and time again, even in Nollywood. And it could either carve a niche for the actor or box them up. Now, joining us to answer the question, is typecasting a blessing or a curse for actors, is filmmaker Shola Thompson. Shola, good to have you on the show again.
Always a pleasure, man.
Absolutely. I got to start by asking this, just in case I didn't do justice to the interpretation of the word typecasting. Shola, how would you define what typecasting is in your words?
Well, typecasting is, selecting the actor for similar roles. I guess most times this happens because most producers basically feel like those guys would fit those roles. So, without actually having to, try and put anybody else in, just at the risk of not exactly having having the actor, portray the role that the director is hoping that it can actually pull off. So yeah, that's typically what it is actually.
So it's interesting to me that it then might come up as a bad thing. I mean, like, should an actor avoid being typecast, especially when, like you said, it seems based on excellence in a previous role? I can call names, Patience Ozokwo, who naturally does a fantastic job at being a villain, or Timini, who everybody knows as a bad boy, just knows how to play that love role, Is it really a bad thing?
So I would say, one of the things that we have to identify, right, in Nollywood is when it comes to genres, we don't have many different types. We don't like to explore, as maybe because, of course, we feel like the audience is used to a particular type. For example, if you go to the cinemas, you're either watching there's an 80% chance you're watching a comedy or a romantic comedy. And then the action, for example, to get action, that's a very slim chance. And then think about everything else. What is it? Thriller? Is it horror? It's those genres seem to be left in the background. But drama, romantic comedies, and then comedies basically are the genres that we explore most of the time because we believe that that's what the audience wants. Now, if you have limited genres, it's going to be very difficult for an actor to try and portray anything else besides a comedic role. That's one. Two, also you have, unfortunately, I think the time or the patience that's required, or in many cases, the skill set that's required from the director to be able to get an actor who should be neutral and then become the character you want them to become. To be able to get that to happen, obviously, it needs for the actor to be able to have the ability to do that, and the director to be able to get that out of the actor. Now, considering the time that it will take to pull this off and the production time as well, you can safely bet that it's a safe bet is just to go with somebody that fits that particular, role. I mean, in Hollywood, it happens, or used to happen rather. For the bad guy, you'd see, okay, you know the guys from Beverly Hills Cop, you know the face that basically just says bad guy. Do you know what I mean? But that used to be the case. But now, of course, as with time, a lot of those stories started to evolve, and you realize, because of this, all of the characters also became less 2D and more 3D, and because of this, it was possible to actually start to flesh out anybody to become the evil bad person. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's how we find it. Yeah. And also we grade the lines. The lines between what's good and what's evil, because those lines are being blurred, especially with the new age storytelling. You realize that it's easier for people to get to cast people who would eventually leave the audience trying to figure out who was a bad person, who was a good person, since black and white are basically getting merged. So yeah, that's what I think on that.
Shola, before I even get into, the filmmaker's responsibility, or like a director, and how they play a huge part in this, either pushing the boundaries of the story or typecasting itself, let's talk a little more about the actors. I mean, every actor wants longevity, right? In your experience, to actors who are typecast, do they find it easier to secure roles, or do they struggle with getting more diverse parts? I mean, you talked about there not being enough genres, but then if you're popular for, being typecast a certain way, is it easy to just stay there? Can you easily get more roles differently? What do you think?
So it is actually easier to stay there, especially if your goal or the reason you're acting in the first place is to make money. And why bother trying to try something else? So the people that would try something else to say, okay, I want to exercise my acting chops. I want to go ahead and see just how good I am and to flex. Just exactly to know just what range I have. The type of guys that do that are people who basically respect the art and who understand that, look, it just helps me grow as an actor. Not necessarily doing it so that they can get more roles. No, personally, it just helps you grow as an actor. Because in this part of the world, that hasn't started, what's the word I'm looking for here? It hasn't started counting as a prerequisite for, okay, maybe auditions or different types of roles. For example, I mean, you've seen the most recent Gladiator, and also you've seen a Training Day where Denzel was, the bad guy. But then, I mean, that's even just making it black and white, bad guy, good guy. Let's look at different roles. Okay, is he a criminal? Is he a security guard? Is he a, doctor? So it's technically, it's in Nigeria, it's not necessarily a bad thing to be typecast. It's not necessarily a bad thing because it is still, right now, the motivation is really, really much about, I'm trying to get more roles so I can make more money. So right now, not necessarily a bad thing.
Well,
maybe I mean, in the future, when we grow and when we get better at our craft, when we have more directors willing to explore different genres, more genres to add to what we currently explore, then maybe we could start having actors who, in the bid to also get more roles, but at least try out different characters. Then maybe they can start thinking about trying to not be typecast. But technically, it is really on the actor. It falls on the actor whether or not they'll be typecast.
All right. Well, I mean, it's seeming like we're on the blessing side of it, because if we had to go back memory lane, I mean, there are a lot of actors we can call Kanayo, is one of them. G. Mike at some point played the bad guy. In fact, every film, we saw that energy. Kanayo, in fact, even up until now, where he maybe doesn't even take roles, pertaining to, I don't want to say being the ritualist, but everyone still refers to him and knows him as that. So I'm thinking my next question would be, do you think audiences prefer to see these similar faces in these roles? Or are they open to seeing more actors? Because I'm thinking there are younger generation of actors who could maybe even do a better job.
Well, you might be right. So the younger generation of actors that you've referenced, just try not to move the conversation towards, okay, what's old Nollywood and what's young Nollywood. There are some younger generational actors who could basically pull off some of these roles better. But you see, for the producers or for the distributors or the people who are investing in your movie, if you are one of the things you have to do from the get-go, especially with your pitch, is to put the names of the actors, right, that you intend on including in your movie. Now, if you try and risk it and say, okay, I want to put this, let's even say an upcoming actor or somebody that's well known for not playing an evil person, it doesn't exactly translate because they're used to, okay, these type of faces for somebody that's going to play a particular character. They're used to it. So for them to try and imagine that, oh, well, let's see, maybe this person can fit this role, you're taking a risk. And you're trying to get investors, so why bother? The creativity is always going to be compromised when it comes to you trying to, look for funding, because the truth is people are trying to get safe bets. And with Hollywood, with Nollywood, and with the way things are right now, considering that, making that major turnover at the cinemas, and then also with the issue with the streaming platforms, trust me, it's safer bets now. It's probably worse than it was not too long ago.
I got to ask you this, right? Because I know you had slightly mentioned, in comparison to other film industries in the world, right? Do you believe that typecasting is more prevalent here? Do you think it's because, like you said, we don't have enough genres? And how did, like you mentioned, Hollywood move from, doing that more often to, it being less than Nollywood right now?
It would feel, I mean, they've been in existence for quite some time. right? And then also you have some of these actors who, maybe started doing stage and, they went to school for it and they're passionate about it. And some of them can actually say, look, I can do just one movie a year and I'll be set. Do you know what I mean? Or maybe even one movie every 2 years and I'll be okay because of how much it pays. So in doing that, you can find out that they can, start to pick and select scripts and say, you know what, I don't like this because I'll give you an example. For example, Robert Pattinson or, some of the guys from Avengers, some of those actors were scared that because of the role they played, that they might be stuck with that particular identity and it'd be hard for them to get any more work. So that's one of the reasons why they felt like they had to break out and try different things. So it doesn't seem like they're typecast as the superhero type. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But beyond that, beyond even just being typecast in that particular bracket, some of the things they also consider as well is, look, I'm an actor, I care about it, I want to try and make it different. Now let's bring it here to Nigeria. As I said, we don't have that type of let me put it this way. We don't have those type of actors who can say I can survive on one movie for 2 years. It's not the actor's fault necessarily. It's the structure. We don't have those situations. Those guys have to keep making money. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, as I said before, the typecasting mostly falls on the actor in this part of the world. So imagine if they said, "Hey, hi, how you doing? I'd like you to play angry boyfriend." And then there's another script that says, I'd like you to play angry boyfriend. And then another script. Now, if you had the option of, look, I can make one movie and I'll be good for 2 years. Chances are you say, hi, I don't want to be typecast. I can't play angry boyfriend. But knowing you have to pay the bills, you would take angry boyfriend. And that's it. So that's usually what the unfortunate situation is. And as I said, it's a safe bet because then the other directors know you've done this before. So it'll be easy for you to just fit in that role, as opposed to all the work that's required to get you to transform to another character.
All right. I got to ask you about this one because it's one of the trending movies right now. Loving every word. I mean, Bam Bam Omonio release film, Uzo Arukwe. Now, some people say that, it seemed that he was pretty typecast for that film. Do you share the same sentiment? Do you see that play out here as well for him?
So who was typecast? Uzo?
Uzo, yes.
So Uzo played a character in Sugar Rush, the rich Igbo man, and there was the particular swagger that he had that maybe they always felt, okay, well, he pulled it off well, so we might as well just do that again. Now we do know the controversy around some people complaining that it's not exactly a good stereotype, because it just makes it seem like, okay, look, that's not exactly how people speak. But I guess just for effect and just to go back to like the typical basic storyline, rich person who is not as exposed to, I guess it was just necessary for them to just put somebody who fits square man in a square peg. Let's just put it that way. Do you know what I mean? So he's done other roles, he's played other roles, and he's done a very good job. I mean, he's a good actor. So. For that, it was what was necessary, and then they've selected him for it.
When we have this conversation, I can't help but think about Funke Akindele. Once we saw Jennifer and the way she spoke and how much she was able to generate from that over the many years, and the fans that loved and appreciate that project. My thoughts at this point would be, as an actor, would I want to try new roles and push filmmakers, directors, investors, and say, let's do this, I could try it? Or would I want to stick to what I see people already liking, and what I can make more money from? If you were in that boat, I mean, you're a filmmaker, where would you tilt more towards?
So, Funke Akindele, as we all know, she's making money, and she can do that if she wants to. That's the difference. Right now, she can do passion projects. Right now, she can say, you know what, I want to make a drama that's that's very, or even just something that's very deep and intense that can allow me to flex my acting chops. She can't do that because she's paying the bills, and she can pay the bills for years to come without having to wonder, but eventually that's a passion project. So for that to happen for most of the actors, it has to be a passion project, something that you most likely are investing in just to prove something to yourself as opposed to maybe anybody else. And that's where it ends, and that will only happen like maybe once every 4 years. But then when it comes to brass tacks, what we will have is a case where I'm trying to make money. This is what's working. Why am I trying to prove anything to? The industry is where it's at. So why bother? I'm not a thespian. I'm not a stage actor. It's not, this craft is not something that there's no, I don't revere it as, so I'm just going to do what's making money. And then when I feel like a passion coming up, I'll make a passion project. So yeah.
Well, I mean, I wish we had more time to break this down, Shola. We always enjoy you on the show. I want to take away from this that maybe it is the responsibility of the filmmakers or the directors or the investors themselves to push these actors out of this box, and in some way that will benefit the industry as a whole. I hope you agree with me.
I guess too. Yes, I do.
Well, thank you again so much for your time, filmmaker Shola Thompson. It was a pleasure having you again.
Always a pleasure.